In the overarching context of global warming too, there is a subcontext which should concern and extremely bother the population of global megapolises, and that is the context, or that is the burning question of urban heat index, which should particularly bother the residents of megapolises like Mumbai, like New York, or like Delhi, and even places like Chennai and Kolkata. Across the globe, of course, urbanization is a phenomena that has seen rapid pace in the last 2 decades, and by one estimate, almost 60% of the global population in the next 20 years are going to be in some smaller or bigger urban conglomerates. And what is this heat island index or heat island phenomena that should particularly bother the residents of cities like you and me? To talk about it, we are joined by a renowned specialist in the field from the Moody's, the global consultancy firm, and Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood, we've all heard about the heat island phenomena, heat index in the cities. What is it particularly, and why should it bother people like you and me, and otherwise the residents of the urban areas or big urban conglomerates?
Okay, well, let me try and give you some background to what is known as the urban heat island effect. So there are 3 drivers of why the temperature in the middle of a big city is higher than in the surrounding areas. So the first reason is that the surfaces of the buildings, the surfaces of the roads are absorbing a lot of heat. They tend to be dark materials. They may be glass and concrete, but they absorb a lot of heat. The second reason is that there's lower wind speeds inside a metropolitan area where you have a lot of big buildings. The bigger the buildings, the more they're slowing down the wind. The third factor is that actually there will be a lot of air conditioning plants, of other machinery, cars in the middle of the city, and they are all producing heat too. So there are 3 factors that combine to drive up the temperatures in the heart of a city, and it can drive it up according to how concentrated the population of buildings is. It can drive up the temperatures by 5, 6, or 7 degrees centigrade in the heart of the city. It varies through the day, so the difference between the temperature in the heart of the city and the outside area, that difference is greatest in the late afternoon, early evening, and into the night. It tends to be a smaller impact in the mornings, but it can mean that the temperatures in the heart of a city are dangerous to health, or reducing productivity in a way that on the outskirts of the city that is not the case.
Mr. Robert Wood, we understand that obviously cities are going to be hotter, and the core, as you describe, of the cities are going to be hotter than probably the rest of the city too. That's understandable. But why do you describe it as dangerous? Because that's where probably in a city the maximum amount of productive work takes place.
Well, it's dangerous in particular if you are not having the benefit of air conditioning. So in a factory or work on a building site where they're constructing new buildings, we know that the temperatures in the summer season, so in India, the heat wave period may start in March and actually run through to August. We know that heat waves are getting more intense. They're lasting longer. They're coming earlier. And we know the temperatures are reaching the levels at which it can be dangerous to health. You have to take into consideration both the temperature and the humidity, and in combination we talk about the wet bulb temperature or the humid temperature. If that temperature approaches the temperature of a human being, of a person, our natural temperature, if it gets close to that, then it starts becoming quite dangerous to health, and can ultimately, it leads to a dramatic reduction in productivity, as I mentioned, but it also can lead to illness and death unless someone is removed somewhere somewhere cooler.
But Mr. Robert Wood, let's look at it pragmatically. Across the globe, and particularly in urban centers of countries like India, where populations are huge. I mean, they are massive populations. We are talking of millions and millions of people. I mean, it's virtually impossible to reduce heat, or even, as your study has suggested, to make those kind of investments, particularly in the developing world, to mitigate this heat island impact, or mitigate this heating up of the core of a city. What then you think is the realistic answer to this? Because it's fine to talk about the mitigation impact through the costs are rising up, but and I know that much of the developing world probably doesn't even have the capacity, and it in a way would roll back a lot of urban impact if those kinds of investments are mandatorily required to be made.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it is so very expensive to take action to get on top of the problem. We find some cities are much better than others. The cities which have got a lot of green space within them, so parks within them, trees within them. The more planting of trees is actually brings down temperatures, and we know, I think in Mumbai, the largest city in India, there are actions being taken currently. I mean, they may not be being taken fast enough, but actions are taken to try and actually find opportunities to open up lakes. I think there's talk about converting the race course into a park and into a forest even, and so there's action which can be taken, but it has to be balanced. So the trouble is that actually the amount of money you can make out of a piece of land by building a tall building on it is greater than the amount of money you can make if you plant it with trees. So you need to have a strong city government to actually ensure that action is being taken to plant forests, to open up lakes, as I say, in order that will actually bring down temperatures for everyone. We do know what to do. It is not that expensive, but it requires quite strong government.
Well, yes. I mean, in India, at least, there's a department called the Country and Town Planning Department, which needs to do all of that, and I think that's the case globally. My last question to you, Mr. Wood, is that going forward, urbanization, the challenges, as you described, of building taller and bigger buildings are only going to increase. Hoping that there would be a strong city government implementing all these policies is one thing, but the realistic dimension of it, the pragmatic dimension of it, how much do you think going forward it is possible that at least in the bigger megapolises like Delhi and Mumbai, where the finance, or Delhi, Mumbai, New York, whichever city you name across the globe, where the finances should not be much of a problem, this mitigating this heat island impact is realistically possible?
Yeah, it's not only possible, it's really important because temperatures are rising. We can measure those temperature increases already. In places like Mumbai, across India, we know heat waves are stronger, they're longer, they're happening earlier, and this rise in temperatures is going to keep going. We know already there's evidence for an increase of heat deaths over the past decade as related to the decade before. So this is important stuff, and there are actions that can be taken, as I say, and those actions are really important, and they simply require strong planning organization in cities and more opportunity to argue why this is important, to show that actually if you take no action, the center of the city will get hotter and hotter. It'll become impossible to work outside through the middle of the day because the temperatures will be dangerously high. So this is a key, this is an important issue. You are publicizing it effectively. There needs to be much more focus on identifying the problem and the solution. The solution is there, and as I say, I mean, we are risk modelers. We use our risk modeling to look out into the future. We do that in order to provide the information that people need to take action today to prevent the worst increases of temperature, the most dangerous increases of temperature actually happening.
Mr. Robert Wood, thank you very much for taking time out, and thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. I hope our conversation takes it forward as far as curbing this heating up of the core of the cities is concerned. Cities, as I said, lie in the heart of the development, particularly in the developing world from now on. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, thank you for inviting me, and I encourage you to continue talking about this topic.